What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Terp Trends. Today, we're honored to introduce a true trailblazer in this cannabis space, Christina Betancourt Johnson. As the powerhouse CEO of Rooted Therapeutics and a key partner of Standard Wellness Maryland, Christina has been on the front lines of transforming the industry. She shattered ceilings by becoming the first Black and Latina majority owner in a cannabis cultivation operation, setting a new standard for diversity and equity. Under her visionary leadership, the Forest dispensary in Baltimore has emerged as a vibrant community hub, not only redefining retail cannabis, but also uplifting local voices and paving the way for a more inclusive future. Christina, we're excited to hear your journey and the impact you've made in both business and community. This is Terp Trends Boss Lady episode. Let's dive in.
How's it going on?
It's good. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So you want me to tell you a little bit about myself?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. I feel like it's
Okay.
better from you than from me.
Yeah, sure. Well, um, happy to be here. My name's Christina Betancourt Johnson, and I am the owner of Standard Wellness Maryland, and it is a vertically integrated operation in Maryland. I'm African American and Latina and a woman. So, we did some early investigation when we first got licensed. It seems like we are the first majority African American and Latina owned business in the nation. So that's kind of cool. It's a small little niche, though. I don't know how many
Oh,
of us there
yeah.
are in this, but it seems cool at the time to be the only one that we found, which is, I think that says a lot about our industry. But women certainly are a powerful force in this space. And so I'm glad to be amongst several other incredible women and leaders in cannabis. And a little bit, I guess, about Standard Wellness and sort of the dispensary. Standard Wellness is only Standard Wellness Maryland is only in Maryland. We've got some
Right.
operating partners that are in a few other states, Ohio, Missouri, and Utah as well. And then the Forest is up in Baltimore, and it is the Forest dispensary. And it's more than, I think, just a regular dispensary. At least we'd like to believe that
Oh,
it's sort
yeah.
of like an elevated, welcoming space, really intentionally designed to kind of reshape people's cannabis experience when they come in. And we've prioritized education and wellness and community over just transactions and profit. And we've got an incredible team there. And right now, though we have operationalized our growth sort of on the Eastern Shore in Warwick, Maryland, we're hoping, and we did that in pods, Adam. So
Yeah.
really super small operation. We just wanted to be able to secure our license. We had a deadline from the state that we wanted to meet, but we are looking for space right now, both indoor, just a little bit of indoor, and outdoor actually, so that we can help supply our social equity processors, which I'm really excited about this, with some biomass, which right now they
Yeah.
don't really have a lot of access to. So, as a social equity applicant myself and licensee, I really want to be able to support those guys who are in the space that just can't get access to what they need to actually do business in Maryland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of wild how that is, right? Like they could be operational, but yet so many other things are in their way to actually get business rolling. And I think people
Yeah.
don't see that aspect of cannabis. That happens way more often than not.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think people don't really understand the business of cannabis in a regulated
Yeah.
market.
Yeah.
I think we're
Yeah.
so accustomed to like associating cannabis with like narcotics trafficking. Quite frankly, like I think that's
Yeah.
what people think in their head when they think of cannabis business. They're like, "Oh shit, it's like these people are out here just moving weight and shit." That's not the case. Like we've got a ton of other considerations, like paying taxes, 70% on the dollar essentially straight off the back to
Yeah.
the
Lack of
federal government.
write-offs, I don't
Yeah,
know what
no
that like's in
write-offs.
Maryland, but like PA, there's
hmm
no write-offs. There's nothing.
Well, I think retailers get hit harder because of 280E, but in Maryland, we've got a pretty decent tax structure. I mean, right
Nice.
now, the governor is trying to make up for a $2 billion deficit. So he's proposing he's proposing a tax increase, which we obviously don't like. Not really because of profits, honestly. Like it's an issue for us because if you increase taxes, then, there's a trickle down effect. And eventually the consumers feel that.
Yeah.
And if the consumers are feeling that through price increases, what they end up doing is popping out to the black market and they go
Yes, ma'am.
places where, the competition is a lot stronger and a lot more fierce, and they don't have the same sort of regulatory and compliance issues that we have. So they're not
Hmm.
paying, hundreds of thousands of dollars in security issues or large
Testing.
percentages. Yeah, testing, especially in Maryland.
Yeah.
So, for us, we want to keep those taxes low so that we can remain serving the vast majority of patients and consumers that are in the space in Maryland. But overall, I just think cannabis is such it's such a widely sort of known plant in that everybody knows what it looks like. They know what colors are associated with it, right? Like purple and green and sometimes brown. But like what people don't understand is the business of cannabis. And I
Yeah.
think it's a lot more complicated than most people think. And honestly, you cannot read a book and fully comprehend it. This is one of those things you got to
No.
actually like learn by doing
It changes
experiential
every day.
knowledge. Oh my God. Yeah, it is a
Business in
really
this space
dynamic.
changes every day with
Yeah,
associates. The ever swivel door in this industry is insane. The turnover rate is insane. The relationship turnover is insane.
it is.
Yeah, there's no guidebook to any of this stuff.
No, I think that's right. And I also think that people, this is the dynamics of this industry are really rough. Like, and it's not just a regulatory piece. I mean, quite frankly, it's public perception too. And so marketing is tough, right? Like we just got booted off of Instagram. We got
Yeah.
suspended. So like that's a thing because we've got a lot of, you know, traffic on our Instagram page and
Yep.
site, and
Yep.
that's how a lot of people connect with us and stay up on our daily deals. But marketing is tough. People don't understand that. So I think there are a lot of nuances in the space that the general public have a hard time sort of comprehending because it's so unique to our space.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's way different. And then they try to adapt that you have to have pharmaceutical type guidelines when it comes to marketing in your grows and everything like that. And my
Yep.
biggest argument that I'm working with in the state is just transparency. Like people should be entitled to know who's behind their medicine. If we're claiming it's medicine, they should be entitled to know that. Where is it being
Yeah.
grown? What's this facility like? Who's touching it? Where'd they come from? I think all of
Hmm.
those things are like super important things to know, especially in PA because it's still being labeled as quite that medicine.
Medical.
Uh,
Yeah.
so it's such a weird understanding, you
Dynamic.
know?
It
Yeah,
is. It is. You gotta be in it to fully appreciate it and like fully in it. Like,
yeah.
you can't be on the fringes and fully appreciate what a shit
No.
show it can be at times. It
Yeah.
is. It's a shit show.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I think's crazy is now that you're in your journey and you're rocking and you have all of these cool titles that you're kind of captivating right throughout your journey. Something that I think's really cool is if you could take a step back and think about your younger self, hearing what your future self has been doing in this space. Like what do you think that would be like?
Well, first of all, I think it would be wildly amusing because I didn't smoke as a young person, right? Or
See?
use any cannabis
Crazy.
products.
Crazy.
Um, I think the second thing is, I actually had to answer a question recently about success, and somebody led was saying, like, you're successful. And, I don't know that I see myself that way. Like, I
Yeah, I
don't
get
see
that.
myself as successful at all.
Like a
I,
little bit of imposter syndrome. I think we all deal with that in this space.
I, yeah, I think it's also kind of just who I am. I was raised by a really hardworking father. He grew up in the segregated South. My dad's old. He passed a year or so ago. And my mother is a Cuban American, but she was an immigrant. She came here at 4 years old. And so,
Yeah.
I was raised thinking that like um education was the number one priority. Like you had to go to school, you had to get a great job. And like there I didn't know that it was possible to get C's. Like that C's, D's,
Yeah.
and F's, that was
Yeah.
not an option in my household. Like I didn't know what type of children got those, but that shit was not flying in my house. So,
I get it.
you know,
Yep.
like I thought that you had to be excellent all the time. And so um I guess I would just say, to my younger self, you got to leave yourself open for new opportunities. And I think I did that along the way. And that's why I had such a wild and interesting sort of career path and journey. It was
Yeah.
definitely non-linear. Um, I think, I don't know what else would I say to my young self. Um, I don't know. I think that's it. Just keep yourself open and agile, and
Yeah.
if something really tickles your fancy and you're interested in it, I think you should go for it.
Yeah.
I really do. I think as a kid, I wasn't much of a risk taker.
Hmm.
And I think maybe I was taught not to be. I was taught to kind of test the limits for sure, but I didn't have like people around me that were huge risk takers.
Yeah.
Maybe break a little rule here and there, but like no, nobody told me like, Christina, bet on yourself first. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
never thought there were things that I couldn't do either. I mean, my parents encouraged me quite a bit, but as a young person, I wasn't thinking like, I mean, I tell you, one of the things I wanted to be as a kid was a race car driver.
Oh, word?
Yeah, like I wanted to be a race car driver and I wanted to be a litigator.
Mm,
Um,
nice.
I think at times I will tell you my fiance often thinks that I still am practicing to become a litigator with him, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I want to be a litigator and I want to be a race car driver. And Danica Patrick was, one of the first female race car drivers, but she's my age. And so
Yeah.
somewhere in America, as I was thinking that's what I wanted to do with my life, she was the first and only person doing it, right? I mean, like the real
Yeah.
first person to be recognized. And so I didn't know that I could jump out there and take that risk and like become a race car driver. I didn't have anybody around me saying, Christina, you can do that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess I would talk to my younger self and just say, look, literally, whatever tickles your fancy, go for it. And that's what I tell my kid.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I love the origin story, right? Because we have so many people in this space where we come in contact with this plant in so many different ways. So here you are growing up saying, you were rocking hard on the books. This was like your household mental. So obviously cannabis wasn't a role in that. So where
No.
did that kind of start coming into play with you?
Yeah, so my life's been full of pivots and lessons and sort of journey moments where I had to push through uncertainty. That has been consistent. And I started with advocacy and sort of conscious capitalism. So, as a young person, I was always focused on like building businesses and supporting businesses that created some sort of positive impact. I was in the nonprofit sector. Then I went in the for-profit sector and worked in development, like, creating large scale real estate developments, but I
Yeah.
concentrated on the government relations and sort of community engagement aspect of those larger developments. And so eventually, I had my boss, who at the time was my fiance, say, Christina, uh, and by the way, we were dating at that point. I mean, there's a longer, we were,
Disclaimer.
it's a longer story there. I feel like I need to back up there, but like
Well,
I
we can edit
had,
that out.
yeah, well, I had a brain injury and he and I were already engaged. And because of the brain injury, um, I wasn't really able to speak. And I was
Wow.
serving, yeah, I was the executive director of a large organization. And we did affordable housing preservation work. And then,
Nice. Wow.
yeah, it was great. And I served on all these boards in my community and in the county. And um, I needed a break because it was overwhelming me. Like I couldn't recover fast enough.
Yeah.
Like, from
Yeah.
noontime, my brain would be scrambled again and I had to rest and then start all over the next day. And so after a year of really overworking and not making smart decisions about putting myself and health first, I resigned my position and I was supposed to be resting. My fiance had an emergency in his business. He said, Christina, I thought you'd be able to rest for a year, but I actually need you to backfill my COO role, and
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
do it with your eyes closed. You know the
Yeah.
business. And I said, okay, I guess so. So I did it. He got sick of me telling him what to do and how to build out
Yeah.
his back office. And we work very differently. And he said, I want you to go take this meeting for me. It's with, these two guys. They're interested in doing some partnership work or something like that. They wanted me to, kind of, I don't know, give them some real estate advice, but you can do it. So I go meet with them, and as it turns out, one of them was the owner, the patriarch of a family business, and it was a big multi-state operator. The
Word.
other was in home health care. So I talked to them, and I was really fascinated. And So, as I listened to them, I thought, all right, let me start doing some research here. I started taking classes. I started looking at the financial modeling. I do have my MBA. And, over the course of 11 months, we went back and forth and negotiated on a partnership. And I really saw an opportunity to create like a more equitable space um, in Maryland. I started working on the policy here in Maryland. And that was really the origin point of going after licensure in 2019, but starting off going through negotiations, partnership negotiations, and then affecting legislation that would create that licensing round. So it was like a
Wow.
roundabout way to get into space. And I looked out in Oakland at some of their social equity programs, and
Yeah.
I looked at
Yeah.
sort of Colorado and Oregon and the bottom falling out there. And I
Mm-hmm.
traveled to Nevada and Cali and Pennsylvania too, and looked at some facilities. And I was like, you know what? This is a science, but it's not one that I can't get. Like,
Yeah.
most of
Yeah.
these
Oh
people are
yeah.
business people. I'm a business person, and
Yeah.
most of the people I saw, like, I just felt like if these are the people that are executives of these firms, I can sure as hell do this shit too.
Yeah.
So, um, I don't know what gave me the confidence in that, though I did pray over it. And when I felt like spiritually I was supposed to move, I went after it. And so that was really the origin story of Stand
Yeah.
Up Wellness Maryland. Um, and the rest is sort of history. I guess those two businesses are an extension of my mission, though, of like service. And it's been deeply personal. I've had like crazy difficult decisions, setbacks, and I keep going when things don't look promising, but I think that's more of just who I am.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say about the origin
Phew.
story.
Dang. That's a little wild, huh?
I think so. Some days I look up and I'm like, I've got all of these gray hair in my head, and I'm like,
Come
how did I
on.
get here? No,
Yeah.
so many gray hair right
Yeah.
now. So many.
Yeah.
I didn't
No,
have them really when I started.
no, I get it. I know that. It's in my
Mm-hmm.
beard already. I
Mm-hmm.
see it. I see it daily now. I'm like, oh man, I'm back in this space. I know what's gonna happen. I took a little hiatus for a little bit, but now that I'm back, I'm already like, all right, I
Yeah.
remember this,
Yeah.
you know. So all right, so you're rocking with this, you got this partnership going, and now you're kind of grabbing your mind about the business flow of things, right? And you're fully
Yeah.
vertical, so that means you got to start getting into growing.
Yeah.
What so without having such a major interest in cannabis growing up, no pun intended,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, what was it like kind of diving into that? Because that's a lot to like,
It's a lot.
that's a
It's a
lot.
lot. And I would say for any leader, it's important to have, if not a mastery, a very substantial and thorough understanding of the
Yeah.
business that you're in. Right? So
Yeah, 100%.
I I had to take classes, a lot of them.
Word.
And I spend a lot of time, yep. I go to conferences. And I've been in the business now for 7 years. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, let me put that out there. I'm sure I sounded less informed, 6, 5. Every year I learn more, but
Oh yeah. Every day
I'm
you're gonna learn something new with this plant. It's wild.
absolutely. Um, but what I also learned to do was to be really honest with my team and just say,
Word.
I don't know shit about that. So
Word.
we're gonna have to start from zero. Like you need to talk to me like you're talking to a third grader.
Yeah.
And then what I do know is business though. So like
Yeah.
don't try to beat me up on some nonsense because
Word.
we're gonna
I
have
like
a
that.
FAFO moment. Like, but
Yeah.
let's talk this through. I had to learn how to trust people in a
Yeah.
way in business that I didn't before,
Yeah.
because I was a subject matter before expert, and I knew what I knew, and it was a lot. But in this space, there was so much that I didn't know. I had to give myself grace, and give other people a lot of room to lead me, which is not natural for me as a leader, honestly.
Word. Yeah.
Um, but I think at the forefront of my like why was that like I believe business can be a force for good, and I
Yeah.
believe in survival and sustainability. And so I wanted to build something that kind of outlasted me. And I think that most of the people that I have around me have similarly aligned values. And so,
Word.
I want to create opportunities for other people, financial stability for other people, myself, my daughter. Um, and this gave me an opportunity to do that. And I think everybody gets behind what we're building and they really believe in it too. And so we're kind of in lockstep. So
Yeah.
you know, I studied and I did the work. I mean, I read, I stay on top of journals, I listen to podcasts. Um, I am not an expert in everything,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I've got a good enough handle to sort of manage and lead a team of experts in the areas that they're supposed to be experts in.
yeah. That's sick. Did you face any difficulty with when it comes to like real estate and finding all that? Because more people I'm
Yeah,
talking to in other states, like even in PA, it was a problem when the program started. You get these licenses and like you're so ready to go, and then you're like, where do I do this at?
no
You know what
space.
I mean?
Oh my God, I could tell you the story. So we were looking at a property in Ridgely, Maryland,
Yeah.
and we found out well after we put a contract on it that the town of Ridgely had decided that they weren't going to ban cannabis because that was against Maryland statute. Counties couldn't do that, but they were going to ban their municipality from issuing permits based,
Oh.
to any cannabis companies until they did more
Mm.
research, and
Yeah.
that meant a whole year's worth of time. So that was one, 6 month exercise down the drain. We had another property. This just fell apart. The floor fell from under us a month ago. We our earnest money deposit went hard. We lost more than $100,000 on that deposit. But additionally, and we split the deposit 50-50, by the way, but we
Yeah.
also lost a good amount of cash in doing the phase one and the environmental studies and all of that, which you have to do before you even go to your lender. So the due diligence work we had already started on. We'd been working on this for 7 months, so between the bank and going back and forth within
Yeah.
the property seller, it just took a lot of time. But that's 7 months down the drain when that fell apart. And we've had like three deals like that. I mean, three or four actually. And it's been really difficult. I think Maryland is a mature market in some ways, and that
Yeah.
people, have been buying and selling cannabis legally for about 10 years now. But the
Hmm.
reality is the real estate market for cultivation is limited. We only got 20 something cultivators. So
Yeah.
people, on the real estate side, we represent a very small amount of real estate transactions in the state. And there are a lot of folks that still don't know about us and what we need, especially like power demands, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
energy demands. So yeah, I would say it's been difficult, and it's been very expensive. I mean, look, embarrassingly, I say this, but also as sort of a educational marker for your listeners. I mean,
Yeah,
we've
please.
probably sunk at least a $500,000 into real estate, and we don't have
Yeah.
any flipping real estate.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I
dog.
mean,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least a 500,000, and that's between like due diligence work, attorneys, like going to
Hmm.
my poor broker. I'm sure he'd rather hang himself than do any more surveys and work on
Yeah.
properties
Yeah.
with me. Thank God he's loyal. But I mean, it's just really, it's a long play game for everybody that wants to come into this space. You've got to be looking, at the long game here. It's not like a short play. You move and you
No.
get out.
No. Not
And
profit wise at
especially,
least.
oh my God, no. No,
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
not in any way. I mean, if you're a business owner, it's just not a short play. You've got to have the endurance of like a real estate developer where you're looking at a 5 to 10 year horizon.
Yeah.
As an investor, maybe depending on where and how you invest, but definitely not as a plant touching business.
Yeah.
Not a short term situation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah.
Would you did you anticipate the wildness of this industry when you first got in it?
Um. Look, I'm such an open person, and I don't
Yeah.
really. I'm not so prescribed that everything I get into has to look a certain way and it's got to be square and fit into the confines of those four lines. Um, so when I got into it, I was really open minded and I had no idea what I was fucking doing. So,
Yo. Yeah.
like, I wasn't like prescriptive. I knew I had some goals and I set the goals and I was like, all right, we'll just figure out how to hit them. But
Yeah.
I think I was really open, so I wasn't shocked. I've not been shocked at all by anything that I've seen.
Word. Nice.
Um, I've been stressed by
Yeah.
some of the things I've experienced, but I'm not at all shocked. And honestly, I think if you do enough research on the front end, if you talk to enough people, and that was paramount for me, like in the building and storming and norming phase, like I just talked to a lot of folks and my peers in Maryland who are already operational, I learned a lot from them. Um, just through osmosis, being around them, listening, serving on boards and,
Yeah.
volunteering, it gave me the opportunity to hear a lot of people's stories and sort of absorb. So I can't say that from an experience standpoint, I'm absolutely shocked, but like I said, I certainly have been stressed. And I think in order to be successful for me, you have to just have alignment, sort of where you're like your values and your work. Um, and your family are in sync, and I'm still working on that. So I think the only shocking thing about this process has been that there's no real and other people may disagree, but for me, I haven't reached a moment where I'm like, "Huh, this is a successful place." Like I'm
Mm.
experiencing success. I haven't felt that yet. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that about any other industry I've been in. I think the churn and burn and the challenges are just so great that while I don't always feel like I'm drinking from a fire hydrant, I'm not sure that I ever feel like I'm I'm like, hey, I've met success. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I haven't felt that yet. And
Yeah.
that is unique to this industry.
And what do you even know what that would feel like? Like I ask myself that all the time because I'm such a hard critic, and it's like, well, what does contentment look like to you? What is
Yeah.
success? What's your metrics then? How do you measure that? I battle that
Yeah.
all the time.
So I think, I'm going to kind of be a little bit more personal here. It's not just about hitting financial goals for me. It's about feeling good about um, how I treat people, like how
Yeah.
my business serves the community, how I show up for people who matter to me. Like that's
Yeah.
success. And I'm still working on that. So like numbers are really important for sure. And I'm sure all of my investors are gonna be like interested in us hitting our goals. I do that, right? Like that's
Yeah.
something I do. I didn't like getting A's and B's. I didn't know that C's were an
Yeah.
option. So
Yeah.
we'll
Not
get
hitting
there.
that's not an option. Yeah. I get that.
No, no. But like I'm tough on myself, so I struggle to recognize success in real time. But I
Yeah.
think that like it's about taking moments to just sit back and appreciate what we've built and making sure it aligns with our well-being. And so right now, I know that I'm in grind phase. I'm gonna work myself a little bit harder than I would be working myself maybe in 3 years, but I'm trying to take pleasure in feeling good about like being a good mom. I don't miss my kids' sporting events
Yeah.
under any circumstances. I'm not missing it. Like,
Yeah.
um, it's not being too exhausted to talk to to my daughter, for instance, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That for me is successful. And it's making sure that I'm not an asshole to the people around me because I'm so stressed
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, it's
Yeah.
like
I'm a little guilty. Yeah.
I think everybody is,
Yeah, for
especially in more
sure.
senior roles in cannabis. Like
Yeah.
while we may not be treacherous to other people like savages in
Mm-hmm.
this space because we got to work with them, sometimes we might be hard on our professional peers, and sometimes the people in our households kind of suffer. But like I think
Yeah.
success is like having the people in life around you who want to be around you, not just because
Yeah.
they love you, because like
Yeah.
you're able to be present, you're engaged, you bring
And
something
they
good to the
see it.
table.
They
Yeah,
understand you're doing some shit right now, and
yeah,
that's gonna take something off your brain, but they see it and they still love you
yeah.
for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's sort of what I'm striving for right now is just like to show up in a way that's respectable and
Yeah.
responsible and that the people I love that actually like still like me. Like they not
Yeah.
love me, but
Yeah.
like they like me. They're like, oh, she's a decent person, like my kid. She likes to be around me. That's a win. My
Yeah. How
teenager,
how old's your kid? Yeah,
she's
teenager.
15.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, man.
my 15-year-old, she likes me. And it's not just because I
Yeah.
work in cannabis and give her, cannabis stickers to put on all of her stuff, but like she likes me and I like spending time with her, but it's an effort, like I try to be patient with her, and
Yeah.
at the end of a long day, it's tough to do that. So
Yeah.
that's what I say.
No, I dig that a lot. And so another thing that I think is interesting that we deal with, that's a new thing, which I also think is weird, and it might be a little personal, but what's it like growing up in this space, doing what you're doing and having a daughter her age, because we still have a taboo around cannabis in our community, right? Um,
Yeah,
and parenthood around cannabis, like there's so many questions with that and how people do it, which I think is wild because there's nothing wrong with it. How's been navigating that, especially at her age and everything you're doing?
yeah. So I think when you work in cannabis and you have a child,
Yeah.
especially a teenager, because my kid's a 15-year-old young woman, young lady, I think the most important thing you can do is to be honest,
Yeah.
So my daughter has been engaged in this process since she was like 7 or 8 years old, right? Like she saw
Yep.
mommy writing the applications. And even then, we talked about like, what is cannabis? What does the plant do? I think it's important that our kids aren't ignorant.
Right.
I think the more we educate them in the same way that we would educate our consumers, the better off they are. To one, interact with the plant because it's going to happen. Teenagers are exposed to the plant, whether it's legal or not, for them to use it. And the second thing is so that they can better help their peers understand about the plant because they will come of age. And at the point they do come of age to use it, we want them to do it responsibly. And so, you know, um, whether we're talking about sex, tobacco, cannabis,
Yeah.
gambling, grades,
Yo.
sports, like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like these are all topics these kids are going to encounter in their everyday lives. And we've got to not make it spooky. We've got to make it palatable and digestible for them so that they can like deal with it and talk about it maturely. You know what I mean? If we keep it
Yeah.
from them, they're going to be weirdos like in their
Yep.
classes and shit. I don't want that for my kid. Like I want my kid to be able to say, yeah, my mom's in, she's a cannabis entrepreneur. She's a CEO. She grows it. She does this. I did a, I did a career day at her school. I wasn't so sure that her,
Hell
and I,
yeah.
I don't know that they realized what I did for a living. I think they just thought I was a lobbyist, honestly.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so I showed up and like I had to talk. This was when she
And
was
what
young,
grade was this? What grade was
fifth
she in?
grade, fifth
Yeah,
grade.
fifth grade.
Yeah. And so I was like, so I grow plants for a living that help
Yeah.
treat people. And
This episode is brought to you by Waddle, the world's fastest and easiest way to review and track your medicinal cannabis products. Waddle offers batch-specific reviews, so you'll know what to stash or what to trash. It's exclusively available for Pennsylvania medical cannabis patients. Waddle helps you take the guesswork out of your cannabis journey and ensures transparency with the verified product tracking. Download Waddle now on iOS or Android. That's WODL, and take control of your cannabis experience today.
all the
Yeah.
teachers immediately like, they didn't know. And she's at a
Yeah.
private school. But I got to tell you, I had like more than 100 letters come from these kids and parents about what I talked about. More than 100. My daughter and I went through, read every single one and responded to everyone. These kids were interested in talking about plants that heal people because they
Wow.
had never heard about that. But that's what
Yeah.
we have, right? And I mean, it's wild because this age group that my daughters and these teenagers, these kids have got issues I never had.
Yeah,
We did
man.
not have
Yeah.
anxiety
No.
and
Not the
ADHD
way
and
they
ADD.
do and all this
No,
stuff. No
no.
way.
And so like this is actually a real viable treatment option for people who
Yeah.
struggle with anxiety
Oh
and
yeah.
for people who struggle with attention deficit disorder or ADHD. And I think, the more that we can kind of use conversations with our teenagers as
Yeah.
primers for them to understand, hey, you've got alternatives to these white pills that you
Oh
are
yeah.
getting prescribed or that you might have to pop. Um, I think the better off these kids are with looking at things like cannabis, but like all plant based products as offering some sort of wellness and medicinal value to them. I mean, like, this goes back to just eating properly, right? Like,
Oh
if you
yeah.
feed
Yeah.
yourself, plant based products, you're going to be healthier. And the same goes for ingesting or using cannabis, whether it's through topicals or transdermals or any other modality. You're going to be healthier if you're dealing with natural products. So
Yeah.
I just try to make sure that like I try to demystify, like I don't talk about it spookily. Like I'm just like,
Yeah.
Vivi, this is what it is. And she
Yeah.
goes with it.
That's sick. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool. I got a niece named Vivi.
Do you?
Yeah, yeah, like a cousin niece, but she's basically I call her like my niece. Yeah,
I bet
Vivi.
you she's
Yeah.
the best. I love
Yeah,
Vivian.
she's cool, man. Yeah, she's a cool
Hmm.
cat. That's for sure. That's for sure. Definitely beats to her own drum. Let me put it
Me
that way.
too. Mine
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Shout out all the Vivies out there.
that's right. Vivian means full of life.
Really?
And so,
That
yeah, that's
makes so much
probably,
more sense then.
yeah,
Yeah, that
comes
makes
from the
more sense.
Latin word to live, vivere. So, yeah, full of life, those girls are. I like Vivian.
Yeah, that's so sick. I'm glad you take that approach because I think that's such of a goal of mine too, is just the advocacy for the teens. Me being
Yeah,
someone that grew up in that generation of ADD, ADHD, just get them on Adderall, get them on Ritalin, me being a culprit of that.
yeah,
And recognizing just like how poisonous that was and how much I then
yeah,
relied on cannabis to bounce me back from the side effects of all those things,
yeah.
where it blows me away that there's so many teens in my generation that were fixed on that when it just didn't need to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
So prayers for the
Yeah.
future kids and generations that we open these avenues for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the more we're comfortable talking to young adults and teenagers about cannabis and even going younger than that, because I think to my experience, fifth graders, fourth graders, third graders that were in that middle school, they comprehended the idea of plant-based medicine. Like they got
That's
it.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, they understood modalities. Like I talked to them about how you can ingest it or take it in a variety of ways, and they got that too. I mean, they're smart kids. So, um, I think the more we talk about it, the more comfortable we are. They
Yeah.
follow our lead.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That's what it
Yeah.
is. You
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
So tying back more to the kids and then back more into the community, outside of the grow, you're rocking this dispensary. You just launched it, right? How was that launch?
Um, it was tough, man. First of all, we
Yeah.
thought we were going to
Couple
be opening.
reschedules, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, we thought we were gonna be open in November because of construction delays, which, in large part were due to like the hurricanes down in Florida because of
Yeah.
shipping and the ports down there. We didn't get our materials up in here in time. And then there were also there was a dock workers strike, so that affected us too.
Yeah.
And then we
Yeah.
had holidays in November, and then you turn around and you're dealing with the government. So like November through December is kind of like wishy-washy there.
Shaky.
So,
Yeah.
there were lots of things we kind of had to work around. And then, coming into January, I made the intentional decision to open on MLK weekend. We
Word.
could have opened up a week before that, but I mean, I thought that, Dr. King's legacy of sort of economic empowerment and
Yeah.
equity
Yeah.
to me fit really nicely with the weekend we were opening up on.
Yeah.
Now, what we didn't know was that we were going to have a snow and ice storm that weekend, right? And the following week
Yeah.
too. And so it's like, I mean, then we ran into like really, we had a great turnout. Several hundreds of people showed up.
Oh, word.
And we clocked a lot of sales that day, but they slowed down after that because the weather was so bad, right? Like we
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
snow and ice on our streets for a week and some change. So we've only been open 3 weeks now. What I am excited about and proud of is my team. Like they're incredible. Like my
Yeah.
team is so
Shout them
agile.
out. Shout
Yeah,
them
they're
out.
great. We have like the best people. I am so proud of the selection of team
Yeah.
members. They're so empathetic, they're committed, they're hardworking, they're patient with each other, they're actually kind people, but they're really knowledgeable as well. I mean, we've got, I think, two or three people on our dispensary team out of only like 20 uh, who have masters of science in cannabinoid science. Like
That's
they went
awesome.
to the cannabis
Yeah.
program at the University of Maryland.
Yeah.
Like these folks are educated. A lot of them came from other locations, and we pay them fairly. We're above market rate. It just feels good in there. It was just
That's sick.
intentionally designed. Yeah. So, I mean, I say it didn't go as well as we had hoped, and that there were like all of these hiccups along the way. But I think that in the end, which is why you have to have a developer's mindset, we're going to go far beyond where I could have ever imagined. And I
Yeah.
think that's the end goal, right?
Yeah.
It's to meet your goal and maybe even go beyond it. And I think that we've got the right people on the bus in the right seats to help us get there. So, um, you know, big shout out to my team. They're amazing.
Yo, big shout out to the team at
Yeah,
Forest.
yeah,
That's sick. That's
they're
awesome.
great.
Now, when you're rocking with product space, how much is it like just rocking out of your brand, and then what else are you carrying? Are you carrying other people's stuff in
So,
Maryland too? And
yeah, so we're not growing enough to really sell in our
where,
dispensary. It's only in
yeah,
the pods and, small footprint of canopy. So right now we're actually selling everybody else's brands.
cool.
In March, we were hoping for February. It's looking more like March. We've partnered with Diesel in Maryland, and they're going to do some processed goods for us. So they're white labeling for our new women's line, which is
Where,
called Glow, like glow
oh,
up.
let's
Yeah,
go.
and so we're so excited, so excited.
Yeah,
And so, um, Glow should be hitting the market soon, and we'll be obviously moving that through our dispensary, and then we've got 4 or 5 other dispensary partners that are going to help sell that product through, and we'll trial run that to see how people like it or not.
yeah,
We're only going to do a limited rollout of product category types, so we're only doing vapes and gummies to begin with. They
cool.
sell well, the
Oh
throughput is
yeah,
easy,
yeah,
but
yeah,
we've
yeah,
got some ideas for other things too, like
yeah.
big
Word,
ideas of things that are not in this market yet, but they are permitted under the law. So I think it'll catch with women. I think that's an overlooked
word,
consumer group.
cool.
Yeah, yeah,
I love seeing stuff like that. You know,
yeah.
what
I think
products are you launching with? Can you talk about it?
I'll
Yeah,
tell you that, but we're looking at some like aerosol sprays, like mouth sprays. We're looking at teas. Um, I really, really like the idea of suppositories. They have not
yeah.
sold well in Maryland, but they're
Okay.
hyper effective for when
Oh
women have
yeah.
periods and menstrual
Yeah,
cycles.
definitely.
Super
Yeah.
effective. And so I really like the idea of that, but I don't think for whatever reason our consumer base loves them. Um, and so those are some of the things we're looking at: the sprays,
Yeah.
the mints, um, you know, um, what was the other one? I said the teas. A lot of women use tea in their daily routine. It could be for breakfast, it could be for evening, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those products that just because we're not in a market with it, like doesn't mean that people won't buy it. I've had a lot of people ask me about it, so we're gonna try that out and see how far we can get with it.
Yeah. Now when you're saying teas, can you break that down?
Yeah, like tea bags, like cannabis infused tea bags.
Word. Yeah.
Um, and I think that it's similar to the idea that people are shifting away from sort of intoxicating products like that are coming from alcohol,
Word.
but cannabis infused teas for us kind of combine the soothing qualities of tea with the therapeutic effects of cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's an excellent alternative to like vaping or smoking because it offers a discreet and gentle way to consume cannabis. And I think that for women in particular, who might be going into the office, who
Yeah.
might be at a sports tournament for their kids, like
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
or
Word.
winding down for the night. I mean, I think that's a nice way to consume,
Yeah. No, I think that's
you know?
sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get
So
myself some tea bags. You know what I'm saying? I'm a big
I'd
tea
love
guy,
that.
so
I'd love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I grow all my own herbs for teas and everything like that. So I'm all in. When I heard that, I was like, can you break that down a little bit? I like hearing stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Well, I
creative.
think it'd be great. I mean, I think it'd be great. The psychoactive effects of THC with also the relaxing effects of like a CBD for stress relief and potential anti-inflammatories in our daily routines would be great. And I think that a really good and well-balanced product is going to give us a harmonized effect, especially that women need. Like we have a sugar on our plate. Like, and
Yeah.
it's layered. Like, I mean, we got a
Yeah.
lot of people that we serve day to day. So to be able to serve ourselves and come down at the end of the day, I mean, I love the idea.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think you're definitely in the right direction with that one. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. How's it been in the dispensary with all the community feedback and community engagement and everything like that?
Well, our Google reviews show we've got 5 stars. I don't know.
Ooh.
I think we've had hundreds of clients. I think we only have like 20 something reviews, but we ask people every time they come through, leave us a
Yeah.
review, leave us a review. And you can get a discount when you come back in. I think that it's going to take a little bit of time, We're doing really well, and we've had nothing but positive feedback, like nothing.
Yeah.
We had one random person on Reddit who was talking about we had to
Uh-oh.
do. Oh my God, Reddit is
Not
like
Reddit. Not Reddit.
danger
Uh.
zone. But they were talking about we had to do a temporary furlough, and
Mm.
rather than laying everybody off, which I could have done, I worked with my team to find money to do for our salaried folks 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off from the end of November through when they started back up January 6th. And once we got approval from the state, which was December 31st, to operate, and then for everybody else, we had to reduce them. Like we had to do a 30% issuance of pay, 70% reduction. It was tough, especially
Yeah,
during the
man.
holidays, but I wanted to give them something to carry them through the holidays. So the intent was really to keep them engaged, make sure that they knew that they were valued. We didn't really have the money, right? We weren't making money. Most dispensaries would have just laid everybody off
Oh,
until they
oh yeah.
got,
Done.
their approvals.
Yep.
Yeah, all of my peers, they did it. Nobody
Cutthroat.
else did it. Exactly. But I made a decision to keep them on. And somebody's girlfriend thought that they didn't like the approach, and I stand by. I think that that person's girlfriend didn't get the truth, like the full story,
Yeah,
and what
yeah,
they
yeah.
said just wasn't
Mm.
real. But
Didn't line
other
up,
than
huh?
no, it
Kind of
didn't at
weird how
all.
that happens,
Yeah,
right?
didn't it? Yeah, I don't know. He got paid, but she didn't see any of it. But I think, the bottom line is, I mean, the feedback has been great. Other than that one person, like hundreds of people have written back in. We've had great feedback on our social channels, and um, I think we feel really good about where we are. And I just hope that we can continue to serve the public with, compassion and education and thoroughness with good products that maybe our competitors don't have. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's sweet. So then the goal, like you said in the beginning, you're already rocking indoor. You're trying to branch out to that outdoor space then too, huh?
yeah, so I think long term we really want to do indoor and outdoor. We're in pilot right
Yeah.
now just because we need to secure our license by the end of the year, and it required that we get the license by 12/31.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that doing some indoor premium flower, kind of like craft approach, small batches would be ideal. But to do outdoors specifically for the purpose of
Word.
basically processing it. So we're going to try to look
Word.
at phenotypes, and we're trying to look at plants that actually grow well outdoors, but only for the purpose of processing high terp profiles, great THC profile, um,
Yeah.
and get those grown so that again we can provide to some of our peers in the space who need biomass.
Yeah, no, that's sick. And I think it's cool to have SKUs that are from outdoors. We're getting through a lot of studies recently about outdoor cannabis compared to indoor cannabis, and like you just can't manipulate the sun the way that we're trying
No,
to, and the way that the lights and the rays hit it at different angles and different points of the day. Like
yeah,
it's important. So that's
it
cool. You
is.
guys are trying to capitalize both avenues that way.
Yeah, and I think like the outdoor, Adam, we'd love to have smokable flower outdoor. That'd be ideal and great.
Yeah,
But I think most of our outdoor will be focused on processed goods just
yeah,
because there's a demand for it, you know?
yeah. I mean, even if you're processing that into like a hash,
Yeah,
like an
yeah,
outdoor grown hash
yeah,
is
yeah,
very different than indoor grown hash with the trichome. So cool.
yeah.
That's sick. So what's on the future line? You got one store open, you're working on your growing products. What else you got?
Yes, I think look, my big goals, my board will approve in a month or so, but I think what's most important right now is making sure that the grow, the processing, and the dispensary licenses are all set up by the end of 2025, and they're all operating well and cash flowing. And
Yeah.
I think in addition to that, I have another goal around our workforce and retention and getting high satisfaction ratings,
Yeah.
internally. I think
Yeah.
that's really important, like because obviously we don't turnover is expensive, but we also don't want to run the risk of like um what happens when people don't feel good about where they work. It's not just
Yeah.
that they quit, but they poison everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we
100%.
want, yeah, we want to keep our team members engaged. We want to take their ideas and make something useful of them if we can. We want to I don't want to go so far as saying keep them happy, but we want them to feel satisfied and, proud of where they work. I think that's more
Yeah.
important, that they take pride in where they work and the work they do, and that they feel satisfied. Like they may not be happy. I'm okay with that, but like satisfaction is important
Yeah, I think that cultivates the stronger relationships from the patient and then forming into the customer base as well.
for
You need
sure.
that in your structure, or like you said, it starts poisoning the well.
100% agree.
Yeah, that's sick. Well, we're kind of reaching on our hour, Christina. That's amazing. I think
Well,
uh I think we got a lot there. Is there anything else you think we need to hit on?
I, I mean, I don't think so. I will say that, I know your listeners are varied, but I would just tell anybody that's interested in this space, even if you're in this space, I mean, there is no direct path. Nothing is clear
Yeah.
cut. Surely
Yeah.
nothing is easy, and the more you connect with other people that are in the space, I think the less alone you feel as you're on your journey, if it's a professional one in cannabis. And the same goes as a consumer. Like the more you connect in the cannabis community, you learn about other products, the effects of those products. I think um, being in community is really important, and it's all about growth and continued growth and education. Again, whether you're a consumer or you're a leader or you're a business person, it's just
Yeah.
about incremental improvement. And so you got to give yourself some grace, but also surround yourself with folks who are interested in doing what you're doing or who are doing what you're doing, so that you can learn. You don't have to make those mistakes that they made. Um, and you realize, like, hey, I'm not the only one that's struggling, because I think
Yeah.
that's really important too as you're going through it, like to have community that you can kind of connect to and relate to.
Yeah, for sure. I think people and the things they've already gone through, that's your ultimate resource. Learn
Yeah,
from other people's mistakes, listen to their stories, and let them guide you to kind of choreograph your own little path you're building.
agree. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I try to do. That's why I try to talk to people like you.
Oh, well, thank you. Happy to serve, Adam.
Oh, yeah.
Happy
Oh,
to
yeah.
serve.
Well, everyone, go check them out. Listen to the episode. Check out the forest if you're in Maryland. And yeah, stay tuned for what's happening down the scenes.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Adam.
Yeah, it's just going to load real quick.
And
It's
I'll
just
stay on while it
uploading.
loads.